I am Demon Great Jagras, and I am the greatest threat known to... Ladies and gentlemen, the time is here! Deviljho, the pickle himself, has arrived on the most moddable system.
I'm sexy and I know it.
And it is time to party! At least if you like pain. Personally, I absolutely despise this piece of preserved cucumber, so while this will be a guide for all of you PC guys, it will be my way of warning you of the 5 reasons that I never want to fight him again. So if you are looking to put the pickle in a pickle, then these are the ways to do it. If you want to go elemental, then make sure to bring dragon element or thunder element. Statuses are listed as being all equally effective. However, in reality, Deviljho is particularly weak to sleep. This means if you are playing solo, putting a little Rottaball on your cat isn't a bad idea. And if you're in a group, having someone focus on the sleep status is particularly effective if you have good wake-up hits. Deviljho's weak points are his head and his belly, though neither of these is particularly close to the ground. Meaning if you're using a weapon with a lesser range, such as the hammer or dual blades, you will struggle to hit things that don't begin with the letter L and end with something that sounds like eggs. But his legs do take a fair amount of damage as well. As important as offense is for ending a hunt quickly, Deviljho as a fight is significantly less about your offense as it is your defense, and your ability to avoid attacks and just generally survive. Especially when the Tempered Deviljho event arrives to BC whenever it will. Let me tell you, the Golden Pickle is entirely likely to put you in a pickle yourself, and yes, I will be mentioning pickles, especially in pickles, a lot for some reason. I just can't put my finger on it. Maybe it's the fact that he looks like a pickle. Whether it be a metaphorical pickle or the literal one that is his stomach, the first reason to hate Deviljho is that he is absolutely relentless and will more than likely combo you to death the second he gets a single hit on you. A little note before we get into specific attacks is when Deviljho is exhausted, which is shown by him drooling, all of his biting attacks, which are the ones that hit you with his mouth, will inflict the defense down debuff. This debuff does exactly what it sounds like, and the way to counter it is to chug yourself some adamant seeds or any other item that would normally increase your defense. Alternatively, you could just not get hit by these moves, which are a tiny little chomp that Deviljho fires forward from his rocket of a body, a slightly larger little chomp that comes at you from the side, a lungy little chomp forward that covers a touch more distance, or even the little chomp combo, which he will shove his ugly gullet at you from anywhere from 3 to 5 times, with the last hit doing the most damage, swiping in from alternating directions and covering an absolutely massive amount of ground. And if you are tired of chomps, then the good news is that he does have some moves that aren't just biting. The bad news is that they are so much more frustrating, and include fan favorites such as the forward chin swipe, which still applies defense down, but also fires a mother-pickling rock at you if you're at range. It is sort of cool though, because the rock he fires at you changes based on the terrain it comes from. For example, an effluvial ball comes at you when you're in the Rotten Vale. He also has an upgraded version of that move, which has a pretty interesting mechanic of its own, and this is the face plant. This ability has a massive windup, and if it hits you, it will just about kill you unless you have massive defense. But if Deviljho is enraged when he does this move, and you hit him and push his buttons just the right way, he will lay down in front of you and ask you to paint him like one of your French girls. Sacre bleu! After you spend this lovely night with this less than lovely creature, he will do as most people do after a one-night stand and attempt to kick you out of his bed. And by kick you, I mean hip check your face. And by out of the bed, I mean out of literally the entire zone. This attack's hitbox is crazy big, and if that wasn't enough, the attack ends with this tiny little tail flick that will hit you every single time you think you are safe. Sorry, I'm okay. I'm just having some flashbacks to Deviljho Vietnam. As this move itself is the next reason to hate Deviljho. I hope you weren't too annoyed by his tail hitting you during the hip check, because if you were, then you'll probably absolutely hate the fact that he has a tail swipe. But not just a little tame tail swipe like Teastra, but a literal 180-degree spin where his entire body becomes a helicopter of death. And he will do this move as many times in a row as he feels like, making an entire area feel like you're an ant that has just entered a Beyblade arena. How do you feel about legs? Well, I hope you like them big, green, and meaty, because Joe will simply not stand for a hunt where he hasn't made you very, very aware of exactly what his legs both look and feel like when shoved right into your tiny face. If Joe's legs hit you, either in this attack where he does a little stomp or in his attack where he does a massive leap at you, then you will get pinned to the ground. And I don't think I need to tell you that being pinned against this jar of pain is a pretty poor position to partake in. But poor positions is what this attack is all about, as if you dodge the leg but aren't approximately 7 zones away from him, you will be affected by my favorite mechanic in the game and the next reason to hate Joe: Tremor! Tremor, which removes just about any modicum of control away from your character and leaves you in a terrible position to try and crawl away as he shoves his giant viridian chin right up your ass. As if this smorgasbord of death wasn't enough, Deviljho actually gains another attack when he gets all veiny and angry, and in his enraged state, he will cast a Dragon Breath attack, which will not only cover an absolutely massive cone in front of him, but will give you the dragon debuff if it hits you, which thankfully is only a relevant thing to remove if you are using an elemental weapon, and you can do so with null berries. This move hits from his right to his left and is relatively easy to dodge by just going under his chinny chin chin. Do not make the mistake of trying to dodge away from this ability. It has a deceptively gigantic range, and your best chance of survival is to just roll right under his face. Does that carnival of pain sound like a good time? I hope so, because he's just not done! Deviljho has a sort of turf war-like mechanic with all of the small monsters, meaning every fanged wyvern and the raptor-shaped bird wyverns in Kulu and Titsy, where he will pick them up and use them as improvised weapons that will give him a +10 to his chance to hit statistic, as the entire monster in his mouth is now a part of his hitbox and a weapon for him to use. It also gives him the super secret finisher of throw a literal monster at your puny little head. The best way to stop this interaction is to flash Deviljho the second he tries to get a mid-fight snack, though applying a status will also do the job. On the note of his turf wars, he does also have arguably the coolest turf war in the entire game, which is with your old pal Boogie Jungle. If you're the type of hunter who is properly prepared and loves to carry around tinged, poisoned, or drugged meats, then I actually have a small modicum of good news for you, which is that Deviljho will actually eat these when he's hungry. He will not stop at anything to take advantage of you, so you shouldn't even hesitate to use these to take advantage of him. Another reason to hate Joe is that he's actually the only monster in the game who is arguably more dangerous inside of a pitfall trap than he is outside of one, as he will thrash his giant face around and shoot little puffs of dragon breath at you if you trap him when he's in a bad mood, which for Deviljho is surprisingly about 90% of the time. However, if you time the trap for when he is exhausted, he will just sit there and be a good boy while you beat his teeth in. If you like luchadors, then you'll absolutely love Deviljho's armor design. It is sleek and actually quite okay looking, considering what it comes from at least. And while the skills may leave a little something to be desired for, the amount of slots in the beta sets makes it occasionally usable in sets for some weapons. Reason number 5 to hate this absolute motherfucker of a monster is simply his size. His hitbox is ridiculous, and I don't mean it as bad because it does of course fit his shape perfectly, but because his shape is so insanely large, it makes your likelihood of dodging his attacks pretty comparable to reaching your hand into a bag of rusty nails and hoping to not get tetanus. Yeah, it sucks. But it's worth it, because Deviljho's weapons are disgustingly good in the stats department, hosting some of the highest raw damage numbers in the entire game, along with a nice little bonus dragon element just to keep you from using Relentless with them, and honestly, for all of the people on PC, they will likely be your new best weapon aside from a couple of weapon categories. But even more importantly than the stats is the designs. One of the most heard complaints about Monster Hunter World is that the weapon designs are too tame, or at least lacking in variety. And the Deviljho weapons are so incredibly unique from other versions of their weapons that it's hard not to smile the first time you see them. So, to cap it all up, for elements use Thunder and Dragon, sleep status if you want to, head, chest, and unenraged legs are the best damage points. Drooly Joe's bites will apply defense down, he is knocked over while enraged quite easily, he will use smaller monsters as weapons which you can stop with flashes, and he is weak to status meats. If you pitfall him early on, he will be a pain, but if you pitfall him when exhausted, he will be in pain. For all the crap that I give Deviljho, and don't get me wrong, I give him a lot of crap that as far as I'm concerned, he deserves, he's one of my kryptonite monsters that to this day will just frustrate me to the point of throwing my controller at the screen in an attempt to do a small amount more damage to him. Deviljho is actually a really cool addition to the game. For the PC people who are just getting him, I know that this experience will leave most of you salty as hell. I've been there, I've been in your shoes, but when you look at him without the crimson curtain of anger that falls over your face mid-fight, he really is a cool design for a monster and an interesting fight that we were missing in the higher echelons of World. The closest thing in this game is the Anjanath, who you won't see much of once you progress past Tier 1 Tempereds. And even then, Deviljho, both in size and difficulty, is enough to open Anjanath up like a jar of... I just won't finish that. He brings mechanics to the game that just weren't there before, at least not on large monsters, I'm looking at you, Barnos, such as defense down and danger during trapping, which also give you an excellent reason to take advantage of the status-ridden meats that a lot of monsters seem to just not enjoy eating. If this set of mechanics was applied to just about any other monster on any other skeleton with a slightly smaller hitbox, I'd probably adore that monster. But because Joe is what he is, the size that he is, with the speed that he has, he finds a way to make me just as angry as he is every single time I join a quest with his name on it. Alright everybody, like if you liked the video, subscribe and hit the little notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.